you so much for joining the fan, everyone, our audience to panel. Waiting for the last panel. So last is always exciting. So this panel is we'll go deeper into what is the issues with AI agents and AI just being the bottlenecks of AI to on Ethereum. And as the AI models and the data is going on chain, what are the issues we are facing and how are projects like ZKM, Aztec, Surgeon Hetu are looking to solve for it. So let me start with my first question about this question is for everyone. Just to understand, according to you, what is the biggest bottleneck for enterprise grade AI on Ethereum? Could it be DA, privacy compute, or something else altogether? So start with Ming, and then we'll go from there.
Right. We're actually building infra, so I think enterprise is one of the core audience or use case. Because in infra you deal with they're very stable providers of either compute data or a large user base. So from agent point of view, we used to think in a different term, automation. So I would actually think the agent we used in this scenario actually should not or do not need to have agency. Yeah, we call them agents as if they're humans, but they shouldn't have their own agency. The model quality are getting better today with less hallucination and with further fine-tuning and generally the improvement of models, you have a very good automation agents, and they're supposed to have no agency, no hallucination. They just understand language, directions, directories really well, precise, and that's the agent you want, especially in the on-chain where we deal with assets, money, finance, yield. Want your agent to have agency. No other purpose, hidden agenda, just authentic, directive following abilities. That's I think that's what's important to us and my understanding of agent-centric world.
And what's the bottleneck? What's stopping us to get there?
I think it's still the quality of the model and also the cost of tokens and all that. I would imagine the future models are getting better. Each enterprise level, you could probably contract with OpenAI or Anthropic. They have all the specific design for you, but eventually you'll have your own model and your own view-centered model that you train with your own, data, private data. Yeah, and that suits you better, and also can also protect privacy of your users. Your models are not supposed to have any sensitive, private data in it. So you will have a better fine-tuned control of your data and your users' privacy. And from an energy point of view, you probably will have your own farms of this green energy, solar panels, everything. I think that's the way to go. Just to connect it with your data center, cooled by natural resources and natural energy that you produce yourself.
Same question to Joe. So what is the bottleneck for enterprise-grade AI on Ethereum?
In terms of agents or just I think maybe a controversial one is probably identity. You're going to need to know, am I interacting with a person or an agent? And I think for it to be useful, there has to be a lot of advances on, proof of personhood. So you can tell, an agent needs to be able to tell, is it interacting with a human, like EOA that belongs to a human or an EOA that belongs to an agent, because it may respond differently depending on that. So I think strong identity and privacy around that on chain.
So talking about like Ethereum ecosystem scalability is always like the number one key issue people are talking about. And we know majority of the team are working towards the TPS, like transaction per second. But there's like another kind of like scalability, which is the on-chain storage. And why that's important. Currently, when we talk about Web3 AI agent, so usually we do all the modeling stuff off chain. It's just like a black box, and we don't know like what's the process and whether something got changed. And when it comes to like a result, we put that on chain, and we call that so-called like Web3 AI. And the reason we don't do everything on chain is because of the cost, because of the on chain storage capacity is not big enough. So I feel like that's the bottom for the real like Web3 kind of like on-chain model or something. So that's something we're working on. Yeah.
Hi, yeah. So I think fundamentally Ethereum was not built to accommodate the AI use cases. I mean, it could barely hold up to simple transactions coming in. Like if you just top it up with some programmable logic, it was too much for it, and hence we had like L2s. So I think if you start to figure it out, bottleneck is like a bunch of in order to start with. But if you need to put some sort of verifiable aspect, then we need to have certain decentralized aspect to it. That's where Ethereum comes in. But if you have to break it down, then I think both compute, storage, reachability, how you can reach to a specific resource, how to define a resource. So I think AI in itself is very unique in that sense, because if you have to make it think of like an address, like an AI agent should have an address, so this needs to be somewhere registered. I think that's how ERC 8.04 comes in, but that's just like tip of the iceberg, because then we will further move into the compute and storage. And storage is not like your transaction data or your core data from smart contract, but it's a huge amount of data, like raw data in that sense.
Interesting. So I got very interesting point of view from quality, identity, to storage in general. So I'd like to dig deeper on matters and storage, how you are trying to solve the problem of cost effectiveness versus reliable data on chain. So I'd love to get your views on this.
Yeah, sure. Actually, I think we have a general view just that evolved with the evolution of Ethereum. We started layer 2 with optimistic. That is as the first optimistic network called Andromeda. We're like an answer to even had a absolute results. This is not just posting. And now we're also the first circle for ZK wall. So ZK have developed Zyron, which is a mid-32R2, it's an open source version that's based ZK wall. And on Ethereum, I think the impossible, the default triangle, I think that's mostly solved. It's never to be a physical law to begin with. It's a challenge for the community, and I think the community, the dev community, Ethereum has the best dev community in all of Web3, all of blockchain space. Answer the call, and we single-handedly pushed, zero knowledge cryptography, exponentially. Like the past couple of years are like past 4 years combined, and we use the past that. Now we have real-time proving. We have, we basically are very usable and cheap, so it's not adding much more cost, gas fees, and the implication of this hasn't been really understood. So basically, with ZQoff layer 2, you can have infinite scale limit. That's what we call, like earlier, even the OP time. This is called horizontal functional scaling. So you use layer one as your consensus settlement chain, and all competition option. And with this, you can also contract DA with as also a separate blow-up. If you have hashes on the layer one. So I don't want to go into all the tech details, but I just wanted to challenge developers that this is probably only the beginning of the Ethereum kingdom or empire. The first 10 years are just the building stage. Now it's the proliferation stage. It can really be a space that people will ask you reach the real users, not just the traders, not just the speculators, real viewers that's normally that don't really care about Web3 or Web2, they just care about usage. And we will have the best UX, real-time proofing, we will have milliseconds level response time for any app. So yeah, of course, on AI applications as well. So yeah, I wish everyone answer the call of killer apps on Ethereum again. We all remember the time CryptoKitty was the trader app, right? And now we need real killer apps for the wormies. And all the hard problem before, centralized exchange, every app can be rebuilt on the foundation built by Ethereum, DQ zero knowledge virtual machine, and decentralization, security, and a good UX at the same time. So I'm very excited actually.
Yeah, I remember. So Vitalik was being asked, what do you think the future of Ethereum? So is it just like a financial kind of like tool or applications, use case, or what do you think? And he's like, I really hope Ethereum can be more than just finance. It can be something like core computer. That means, except for the DeFi, there will be versatile of other applications. For example, like the AI we're talking about, right? To achieve that goal, that means instead of the TPS, transaction per second, which is one scalability. So the on-chain storage will be another kind of dimension to help achieve that goal. For us, we are super module flexible. So we can be a layer 2 for the layer 1. We can also be layer 3 for other layer 2. So we're not competing with all the existing L2 like everyone here. Actually, we're working very closely with us. Why everyone is helping to achieve phenomena like TPS, we can give you another side of dimension. So you will have more on-chain space. One common question I got the most is what's the difference between you guys and Filecoin, IPFS or Arbit. Basically, they're like single blockchain outside of Ethereum ecosystem and more for the cold storage. But as you guys know, if we do want to interact with smart contract like AI model, this kind of like real computation, you need to have the dynamic storage, which it's a kind of different. And also within the Ethereum ecosystem, so there's no big interoperability problem like cross-chain problem, which is really headaches. Yeah. So that's how we position ourselves. Basically, we want to help all the apps within the Ethereum ecosystem, or the layer 1 or layer 2, to achieve the on-chain storage and lower the price by 1,000 times and give them the PB level on-chain capacity. I think that can cover majority of the use case, especially for some mid-level like big model. If it's like a super big model, definitely no. And I'm curious that should be on the blockchain. Yeah, but for the small to medium size, PB level should be covering enough. Yeah.
I think people on A2, I think you introduced the deep embedded in his money, which has USD as stablecoin and Flux as your verifiable computer work. So how is that, that framework is making AI private and scalable, but also auditable? What's your journey and what's your take on making this like this would enable the AI to have that enterprise grade level. So curious about the framework and how you're thinking about it.
Yeah, so I think it's a pretty complex question in and itself. So I think, like I was saying, that the traditional paths of DA will not solve a lot of questions, but now we'll have like the data availability layer that actually caters to the AI use cases. So meaning all the AI data which is being generated should be stored somewhere. What do we do with this type of data? Like initially, even if you put some data on Celestia, it's gonna give you like the data availability guarantees. It does not give you the syntaxical or semantical guarantees. And even in AI use case, the semantic can differ a lot. So we at Hetu, so we sort of imagined this thing that, hey, imagine in the case of AI agents, they have collaborated on a task. So this task has generated high quality causal contextual data. Even within agents, this data can be like considered as synthetic data in a sense. So with this data, so one thing happened for sure is it was generated against some input given by a real user. So how do you sort of audit this flow of data that, hey, it actually has done something useful? So that usefulness is again very subjective. So we are going to use this opportunity to actually put some value to it. Meaning it's not like Bitcoin, you burn a lot of compute storage to actually find a noise. But the thing is, you actually still use all your infrastructure, your tokens, to actually generate a real outcome, a valuable outcome that a user has like literally paid for, right? So if you look at it this way, it would be transformed into a resource. It could be like an AI native memory. That's what we call as Flux. So like, hey, you go to an exchange, you might like you swap it against something. No, it's actually proof of it's like a proof of work, to be honest. The AIs are doing work. How good of a work they are doing, it is or the Hetu protocol to actually organize that. So the more good work you do, the more native token that you end up earning. In the case of Bitcoin, it is just validating transaction signatures and stuff. But at the end of it, to generate, let's say, an anchoring proof on the chain, it has to do some sort of a useless work in that sense. But which is required for network security in that sense. But in this case, it's actually gonna take your intelligence, verify it in a way, and then give something back to you which you cannot get anywhere else.
Let's jump into privacy now, because AI by nature you are processing sensitive data, as well as because it's on blockchain it has to be verifiable publicly. So we'd love to go deeper into Aztec's approach into how thinking about AI data privacy as well as execution, and then we're also to deep into ZKM's approach, which is more general purpose.
Yeah, I think there's two things that need to be made private in AI. There's the kind of, I guess, the sensitive weights of models. If you just put a model's weights on a smart contract, that's potentially someone's IP, and usually people charge for that. If it's just public in a smart contract, you can just clone it and make a new one. So I think that's one area that needs privacy, and the other is obviously user data. I think the first problem is probably the more real problem in the short term, because if you want to take a model and put it on chain, like you're going to have to wrap it in a ZK Snark or some sort of program. And when you do that, you have to do inference or some sort of machine learning in a zero-knowledge proof. And the real bottleneck there is just proving systems. They've come a long way in the last 4 years, but you're not going to be able to kind of get like very advanced models into a proving system. Maybe you can do some sort of compliance check. You can do like a face match, but you're not going to be able to do like a large language model anytime soon in a proving system. And so I think that's kind of an area where we need to see a lot of development for this to actually be feasible. on the user side and kind of like context side, I think, yeah, like the training data is kind of another area. And if you, yeah, I'm not up to speed on the research here, but you'd need to be able to kind of let a model be trained on encrypted data to not leak secrets to a model. So I think those are the two open problems we have right now.
And how are you looking at starting with Aztec?
For Aztec, at the moment we're focused mostly on kind of like execution and kind of, I guess, bringing privacy to normal Ethereum transactions. I think it's quite far off to actually have inference on chain. I think the way we'll kind of see things in the next 1 or 2 years will be agents interacting on chain, but the AI is off chain. So I think we can bring privacy to what's happening on chain. We can bring identity on chain. We have things like proof of passport, so we can start to solve the problem I talked about earlier. But yeah, in terms of an actual useful like machine learning or like models on chain, I think that's a few years off. We're focused on payments, DeFi, making the rest of Ethereum private.
Yes. So since we're doing the ZK rollup, so the idea is not to put model or whatever like model data weights on the solver weights on their one chain, right? So that's a consensus. That's about 7 layer, and there are important things related to blockchains that need to be put on chain to settle to reach consensus. I think that area is explainability, interpretability. Like you need to know how the decision is reached. So in that regard, for example, in our case, you can probably do some inference and you have a trace, and then this existing trace would also with parameters of a model which is off chain, that you can kind of have a auditable trace of which layer activates the kind of a result we got, right? And that's called the mechanistic interpretability. And you can have that completely contained with the execution trace, and that can be settled, in different way on layer 1. So I think that's the biggest thing Web3 can do for accountability, interpretability, those important things for trust, for the thing that's important with the nature of Web3. So that's why I think that we can do a lot.
Move to the last question, talking about the future of AI and AI on Ethereum. So according to you, I mean, we can start with Abhi and then we go from here. What is the most like transformative breakthrough you are looking forward to in your domain, or could be outside domain, just to make on-chain AI like more transparent, take it to the next level, basically?
I mean, I'm very bad at predictions, but with the current flow that things are going, I think the one of the biggest decentralized AI, which actually flies very close to Ethereum or Web3 narrative, is Zero G. I was actually looking at their presentation at SEC this year, so they still have a lot of boxes yet to be checked out. So I think training a model is fine, is good. You can do it in a decentralized way, but it is still like 5 to 10 times behind the Web 2. So whatever is Web 2 is doing, Web 3 is doing it way too much slower. So I think in the future I would love to see this gap sort of closing it down. And on the agentic side, I would like to see something very similar to like Landgraph, Mansion, or Phoenix agentic launchpad coming to the Web 3 world as well, and not just hey, here we are just giving you ability to actually launch AI agents, but you have to use it in our own silos. No, it should be permissionless in that way. So be it like if you are running an Ethereum validator, you should be running your own. You should have the ability to run your own AI agent from anywhere you want. No lock into the infrastructure of the website. So completely permissionless in that sense.
I still remember, so last December, there is like a hype for AI agents, and there are like so many tokens generated, And what they do usually is there's like a Web2 AI agent, there's a token, and that token is how we connect with the Web3. That's it. I feel like anything we can do more than that, it will be a plus. Like I said, not only just running all the process where AI agent, interaction off chain and only have the data available and put that data on chain, only got the token, that's the only connection with the Web3. So anything more than that will be great for me, at least. So that's why we are at least provide another way of like on-chain storage, so they can run the models on-chain. So definitely, like you mentioned before, there are like so many gaps between Web 2, right? But at least I want to see a little bit like, difference compared with what we already got. I don't want people to say, okay, the only thing we have is just like a token, that's it.
More serious use cases of AI.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I'll go. I think two things. One is on the data approach, there's a Ethereum hard fork in December, Fukushima, so we get a lot more blobs then. It's not going to be enough to kind of put whole models on chain, but more data on Ethereum is definitely the right direction. The other kind of thing I think would be not specifically AI, but more identity standards. So there's things like obviously proof of humanity with WorldCoin, there's ZK Passport, but there's not standards around it right now. And so if we're actually going to get agents on chain, we need a way to establish who's human and who's an agent. And I think we need, we have with 804, the agent kind of like EAP. We don't have the same for humanity. So I think we need that.
Let me finish with something like a Zen-like, right? Like a Zen master would say, the best Web3 is no Web3. That it can be interpreted as, I think it's the most important thing, like we all know, is UX. Mm-hmm. So Web3, blockchain used to be lacking in that regard, right? Like 10 minutes a block, 12 seconds a block is still too slow. And you can't just do, I know there are a lot of projects claim like 1 million TPS in 2019. That won't do because consensus needs time. You cannot, propagate consensus faster than, network speed. So there's a limit to the kind of TPS you can process on layer one. That being said, Ethereum has pushed the envelope, and like I said earlier, most of the challenges of scaling has been solved. So it's time to actually build Web3 application as good as the Web 2.1. And our goal is to build an app facing what we call normies that don't know anything. You don't need anything Web3. You don't need to know there is a Web3 behind everything. It's like today, like I tried to build like web apps some time ago, and the one I built, I still remember like client server like from long ago, and mine is just so slow. And then I realized it's so evolved right now. You have CDN and all that. Yeah, you can't just go like the old way. So I think the same for this new generation of web apps. Besides, you look at new markets, for example, South America, Africa, where their Web3 from the beginning, they don't have bank accounts for that matter. They don't have, sometimes they don't even have electricity and all that. Somebody never like used a landline, right? So with them, it's very natural to have Web3 at their first, like kind of experience. So yeah, I think let me finish that. Like, yeah.
Thank you so much for your insights, and please have a round of applause for all the panelists. And
Thank you.